VU Campus Radio. Learn, live, listen. VU Campus Radio.
So welcome.
Hi.
Can you introduce yourself and your party in 1 minute?
Yeah. So my name is Abigail, and I am the chair of ChangeVU. Last year I was in the University Student Council, and the year before that I did the Faculty Student Council. And my party ChangeVU is brand new. We're almost 2 years old, but we still managed to come a long way. We have a lot of people already elected in the current councils, and we managed to get the most votes last year in the elections. So we're working really hard to keep that going. And we work both on like policy things within like our representatives that we also call block. But we also do a lot of like community things, so different like events and whatnot for students to hear out what their issues are and also just have like a fun time on campus.
So let's actually move on to those policies. With the current housing crisis in the Netherlands right now, like students are victims of that, so to say. What would ChangeVU's proposition be to change that, or propositions?
Yeah. So we've actually been working on this for 2 years already. The past 2 years, we've organized a housing lottery that allowed second year and higher up students to apply for housing at like Island City or any like student accommodation type thing. And then they can just hopefully get a spot through this lottery. 2 years ago, we didn't manage to give everyone a spot, but last year, I'm very happy to say that we worked to get everyone who applied to the lottery got a spot at housing. So in theory, there should have been no one who was left without housing. Obviously, there's still issues about the outreach of this and how, students hear about it. But that's something that's been worked on, and we're doing it again this year, and we want to continue this for the future years for all students. Yeah, so it's been worked on, but it can keep growing, we'll say. Along the same lines, it's just very important to get the outreach of it too, because obviously we know that it's unrealistic to think that every student has a house here. We keep hearing about the housing crisis. So just making sure that the university is also better able to communicate these things to their students so that everyone who needs a place can apply to this. This only tackles then higher up students, but also this first year students who for whatever reason can't live in student housings or whatnot, and finding an option for them is also really important, I think.
All right. So let's move on to mental health among students, because half of the students do experience some sort of mental health issues. And I was wondering what would ChangeVU plan to do about that?
I think realistically ourselves to tackle this issue is very complicated, but we work alongside, for example, like the Student Wellbeing Point. We've invited them to like events, they've come around. Also during elections, we always have them going around getting like opinions from the students on hearing what can be changed. So I think first of all, like facilitating them and helping them out, because they're the people that actually know what to do with these issues. But I think also just creating more so like a community vibe on campus. So having a place where people can find where their people are and be able to like have fun on campus and want to come to campus is super important for their mental health. So through like different events and whatnot, we've been working on that and like trying to just make a nice environment for students on campus.
Yeah, and to touch upon that, like according to ChangeVU, accessibility on campus is also a major talking point. What do you think about that? What should change?
Yeah, so we are working currently with the USR on making sure that there's these spaces on campus which are supposed to be for like neurodivergent students or whoever just needs a break that you can apply to. And these are basically just an empty room with nothing in them. So just improving those to make it a more comfortable space for the students who need that moment to take a moment to just chill out or just have that time for themselves. We've been working on that. But we've also seen that like for mental health and whatnot, this can be like done through everywhere across the VU, right? So things like if it's less stressful for you to apply to an exam, that's already a load off of your mind, or we're working right now on like creating like a mini series on teaching people their rights for exams, because, you get a bad grade or something, or the professor's not answering, you think this is the end of my life, like I need to figure this out now. But students often don't know that they have these rights. So if we're then able to like help them know about the different things and get that off of their mind, that's I think also helpful for them.
Yeah. And another point, because ChangeVU is a big advocate for free menstrual products,
Yes.
I've read in the policy
Yes,
paper,
yes.
and also for gender inclusive bathrooms. Um, some students at this university don't see that necessarily as a major improvement to the campus life. Also, looking at the growth of the VSP party, who are against the gender inclusive bathrooms. Can you explain to students why ChangeVU thinks that it's very important to have this at campus?
Yeah, of course. I think oftentimes when people hear this, they just assume that we want every bathroom to be gender neutral, which is not at all what we're wanting, right? We just want the option to be there. So for students who need to use a gender neutral bathroom, it's unrealistic for them to have to go down 15 flights of stairs during a lecture break to be able to use the bathroom. And there are certain regulations at the university, I'm pretty sure, that state that they can't just be anywhere. There has to be a certain amount of male and female bathrooms. So like we saw, for example, on the ground floor, right? We have the male, we have the female bathroom separate, but we also have that gender neutral bathroom where anyone can go. So I understand that there are some people that don't feel comfortable to use gender neutral bathrooms, and we're not asking to replace every single bathroom. That's unrealistic and also not helpful. But by having more of these, it gives people the option who want to use them, and it's also that these are open for everyone, right? You don't have to be whatever in between or something to use these bathrooms. Anyone can use these. And some people I've actually heard like the gender neutral bathrooms because they have the little sinks in them and they have their own little space. So there is that advantage to it. And for the menstrual products, it's the same thing. It's just having that option because menstrual poverty is a thing and it's not always, or even like you get caught sometimes and you just don't have something on you. And it's a lot easier to go to the bathroom and use it there because that's where you'll be using it than running to Spar and paying an overpriced product just to be able to go through your day, you know? So it's not about that we want this to be shoved down people's faces. We just want the option to be there for the people who need it.
Yeah, thank you for explaining.
Of course, yeah.
So, ChangeVU emphasized its drive to for the VU to be a fossil fuel-free university, and part of this is making funding decisions for the university. Where does ChangeVU stand in that trade-off between sustainability and financial necessity?
I think it is a very tricky balance between the two because obviously the budget cuts that are happening this year are massive. But the university needs to still try to remain to get that title again of being the most sustainable university because they were so proud of it. And I've talked with the Green Office and tried to see with them what we can do and maybe some smaller steps first because obviously that is a very big step with the budget cuts happening right now. But seeing what we can do with them, different ideas. Like, for example, they were telling me about how when the WN is being demolished, they try to reach out and see what they can do to, like, give things out again to different people and reuse them, so just throwing it away. But they've struggled to have contact with the university and different departments there. So there are smaller steps that we can definitely do to work towards being sustainable that aren't these massive big steps that have to do with the budget cuts in these complicated times.
Yeah, and you're actually touching upon the next question about the budget cuts. Because the Dutch government has implemented a lot of budget cuts in higher education. And what does ChangeVU think should happen at university, or how should the university navigate these budget cuts in a responsible way?
Yeah. So the way that we've looked at it and that we've done so far, we've been working on, is that these budget cuts need to impact students' quality of education and life on campus the least possible. Obviously, there is a balance because we don't want every professor to be cut too, because that will still affect students' quality of education. But finding the way between the two, where you're able to make these cuts, but still have students be able to want to come to campus and find the joy on campus too, and have classes where they're still able to actually learn, right? Because even before the budget cuts, for if I take my class, for example, biomed, we were told that we're just too many to go into a lab, which is not what I signed up for when I came to this course. You'd expect a research course to have lab work. So there's certain things that the faculties or the course coordinators then have to decide on what is the core necessities for these tasks, for these classes, sorry, and those cannot be left behind. And yeah, I just think it's very ironic how big these budget cuts are, and it seems like not enough people are working on them.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. And on to the next segment, because we're also seeing, like, over the last few years, we're seeing the introduction of AI into education. Where does ChangeVU stand on the implementation of AI in higher education?
we've actually worked on this a little bit last year, but I think this can be definitely done in a very responsible way, right? So if the professors give you the agreement to do so, and if it's used for things like, for example, helping you better understand things or like working back and forth with it, that should be acceptable. But things like writing your paper obviously is not going to work. Like in no way in an academic life, this is what you want to be using AI for. But if it's helping you, for example, organize your thoughts or creating questions for you to practice on, I think that should be allowed. And I think that the VU should be working on that.
Thank you. Yeah, and then we're almost coming at the end of the interview. Like I still have a few questions. And one of them is, what is a lesser known proposition that ChangeVU has that people should know about, that students
Ooh.
should know about?
That's a good question. I think one that I'm surprised doesn't get more attention is that we want free Dutch lessons for students. And the idea that we kind of had behind this, and obviously the implementation can be different, but we thought of creating some sort of like lottery system, because obviously budget and whatnot is complicated to then just immediately offer this for everyone. But if we start off with like a pilot phase and we see how it works, hopefully then in the future the university can then keep doing this and offer Dutch lessons to everyone. Because I think especially with the climate of the government and everything, students should be encouraged to be able to learn Dutch in this country. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's maybe also a way to bridge like the divide that we're seeing between international students
Exactly,
and Dutch
yeah.
students. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a way to.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting point.
So it's a really good topic, I think, but just people just often don't hear about that one. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that.
No, that's actually why I asked the question, just to get these things going, like, yeah, in the whole debate as well. And then, what would you say is the proudest achievement from ChangeVU over the last academic year?
I think I'd love to answer with the policy point. We have so many, and I've talked about them already. But I'm personally very proud of how far we've come in, because we're only 2 years old, and I think we've managed to take this university by storm. And just the connections that we've built with all the different study associations, student associations, and individuals here on campus, and seeing how they are just so willing to help us out and so motivated too, which is always something surprising, right? Because we'll do so much in like trying to get people to join us and whatnot, and then when that actually starts to pay off and you see people excited to help you out, I think for me that's been what I've been like super proud of. And then just seeing also like all of our little like representatives like doing their work and whatnot, because obviously I trained a lot of them for their different jobs, and so now it's like seeing them go off and doing their work. I'm like a proud little mother watching them do that. So I think that's what I'm really proud of for ChangeVU.
And since you're super proud of ChangeVU, can you tell the voters, basically the students, why they should vote for ChangeVU in one clear message?
I think we're the party that actually works on issues that directly affect students. We're not here shifting the blame or seeing these like cultural wars or whatever bigger topics. We're here, what actually affects students. We want to hear that from you. We want to work on it and we want to implement it for you so that your education and your student life is better. So yeah, go vote.
And the final question, since we're a radio station, what would be a song that could like soundtrack your party?
Oh, our party? Oh, that's a good one. I have to pay tribute, and I might get some hate to this, to our founder, Vincent, and I'll say Houdini by Dua Lipa, because I think every single event that we've had for the past year, the song comes on and everyone goes around and sings it. So I'd have to say that one.
All right. Thank you very much for sitting down with us.
No, of course. Thank you.
I appreciate the conversation.
This was very nice.
And good luck with
Thank
the
you.
elections.